It's time for America Outdoors Radio. The fast-paced hour of outdoors radio ahead is not only awesome, but unlike those other shows, you can actually sleep in for this one. Better still, we've got a special Pacific Northwest edition for you, sponsored by Northwest Sportsman Magazine, Rugged Point Lodge on Vancouver Island, and Northwest Fishing Guides out of our hometown here in Everett. You won't find this version of America Outdoors Radio anywhere else. It's the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio. Brought to you by Fox Sports 1380 KRKO.
Welcome to the show. We've got a great Pacific Northwest edition for you this week. Once again, we'll be talking to Jim Stahl with Northwest Fishing Guides. He's going to tell you about not one, but two different methods you can use to catch salmon out of the Mid-Columbia River right now. We'll also talk to Matt Caguette for the last time this season. He's going to tell you about the coho he is catching out of the remote rivers of Vancouver Island's northwest coast right now, and C-Dub Welch, the well-known outdoor chef who loves to do Dutch oven cooking, will show you how to make peach cobbler in a Camp Chef Dutch oven. Stick around for that at the end of the show. But before we get into all of this, it's time to tell you what's hot in the Pacific Northwest. Coho fishing on the Lower Green River unexpectedly opened last week, and today the Green River opens from I-405 to the South 277th Street Bridge. The daily limit is 6 coho salmon, but only 3 can be adults. Anglers were doing well last week when the Green opened. Another fishery that opened up is the Skykomish River above Gold Bar for hatchery steelhead. The limit is 2 steelies, and I suspect the river around Ryder Ponds is crowded today. Salmon fishing on Lake Washington continues to be relatively slow, but hey, the perch fishing continues to be red hot at that lake. In the saltwater, fishing pressure has been light in Marine Area 4, but anglers checked at CQ have been catching both rockfish and greenling. Heading south, there has been effort on the Cowlitz for salmon and steelhead, but it's been fair fishing at best. You'll probably do better fishing the Columbia. Hot spots include Drano Lake, the mouth of the Klickitat, and the Deschutes, and further upstream at Vernita and Hanford Reach. The Chinook run has been good this fall, but the steelhead run is about half the long-term average on the Snake and about 1/3 of the long-term average so far on the Upper Columbia. On the hunting side of the house, upland bird season opened up east of the Cascades today for quail, chukar, and gray partridge, formerly known as Huns, until someone decided Hungarians could be offended by that name and changed the name of the species. You've got to love the political correctness we have in this day and age. Despite that, I'd encourage you to get out there and go after these birds, because doing so with a bird dog is truly one of the finer experiences you can enjoy. If you're looking for a leisurely hunt, go after quail. If you're looking for a cardio workout that will either kill you or make you stronger, head towards the ridges bordering the Upper Columbia and Lower Snake Rivers and chase after some chukar. It's time to check in with Jim Stahl again with Northwest Fishing Guides. Jim, I know that you are fishing off the mouth of the Klickitat. I know there's 2 ways to go about that fishery when it comes especially to the Chinook. There's hover fishing with eggs right off the mouth, or you control. Why don't you go ahead and explain for our listeners how both methods work?
The troll method is my preferred method just because it takes the chance of the bite away from the client. I mean, once the rod folds over and it's bucking, you've got the fish hooked. The biggest problem I have with the hover fishing bite is it all depends on the client and how much patience they have and how they can detect a bite. We're using braided lines, so you feel, almost everything, but a lot of people, especially if it's been a while between bites, start to get a little complacent and don't really understand or know what they're feeling for, and any little tick of the line or movement of the line is usually the fish sucking in those eggs, and you need to be on it, because if you're not, they can spit them out just as fast. But like I said, I really prefer the trolling method because you don't have to worry about what the bite feels like. It's a visual thing. When the rod's folding over, it's a pretty good indicator that you got a fish on the other end.
Are you fishing quick fish or super baits, or what are you using there?
It's a kind of a mix. We've been using super baits, and then we also been doing some long line trolling of some maglips in the 3.5 and also the 4.5, and I've been usually running 2 of those out the back of the boat, and then my other 4 rods are staggered with super baits with about 10 ounces of lead on them.
Well, there you go. If you want to get in on the salmon fishing action off the mouth of the Klickitat or other places in the middle of the portion of the Columbia River, contact Jim Stahl. His website is nwfishingguides.net. That's nwfishingguides.net. Thanks, Jim.
Yep, take care.
And with that, let's head to this week's national edition of America Outdoors Radio.
It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Cruz.
Are you a dog man? I'll admit it. I am. I've been blessed to hunt with a number of dogs during my lifetime, and I think most of you will agree. A good hunting dog is more than a companion, more than just an animal that's doing work for you. They're family. The first hunting dog we had was a Hungarian Vizsla. She was a beautiful dog, but unfortunately, Bracken was as dumb as a rock. Her specialties included chasing swallows and squirrels and finding wounded ducks in the brush, which she would kill and bring back to you, usually after you were already walking back to the car with a limit of birds. And never mind the fact that you never even shot the bird in question. She was a freelancer, that dog was. Bracken did have a wonderful disposition, though, that made up for a lot of those shortcomings. My dad got Bracken, and my first dog that I bought for myself was a golden retriever named Gracie. She was big boned. She weighed in at 96 pounds, but boy, did she have a nose for birds. She was deadly on pheasant and quail and could find just about any duck you drop, but she did hate the cold water and had a habit of sitting next to you and falling asleep with her head on your leg in the duck blind. Sage was next, a good-looking yellow lab who was also very high-strung. He didn't have the nose Gracie had, but that dog made up for it with enthusiasm and persistence. That lab loved to hunt and was perfectly at home swimming in the cold water, too, retrieving ducks. And now, I'm on my fourth dog. Her name is Georgia. She's a Springer Spaniel, and I've got to admit, Spaniels are very different than retrievers. I'm finding that out. Frankly, she doesn't have much of a retrieving instinct, but she's got a great nose. She's athletic, got great endurance, and loves to hunt the brush for both pheasant and quail. She's still a work in progress, but it is a joy to watch her grow into a decent hunting dog. As much as I love to talk about hunting dogs, there are lots of other topics we'll be covering on the show this week. Joe Sarmiento, also known as SoCal Salty, is an avid angler and outdoors writer who is going to join us in just a couple of minutes to talk about fall fishing around California's Channel Islands. Another place to go fishing this month is in Alaska. That's right, October fishing in Alaska, you ask? I know, I did too, but it turns out there are a couple of streams that offer very good steelhead fishing at this time of year. Adela Jackson, a longtime outdoors writer and photographer who hails from Fairbanks, will tell you about where you'll find those steelhead this month. It being October, we've got to talk hunting, and I was lucky enough to get an interview with Matt Kaiser. Matt is a well-known outdoors writer and TV personality who lives in Sheridan, Wyoming. He wrote a great article for Outdoor Life about the best states to hunt for public land antelope and some tactics that will get you a pronghorn this fall. In addition to antelope, we'll also talk about whitetail deer hunting. We've got some great safety tips for tree stand hunters, courtesy of Vermont Fish and Wildlife. And then we'll share the highlights of an article in Wide Open Spaces about the best and worst states for whitetail deer hunting. You put this all together, and we've got a great hour of outdoors radio coming your way. And we're going to chat with our first guest right now. Next on America Outdoors Radio, we're talking to my friend who is known as SoCal Salty. Other people just call him Joe. His name is Joe Sarmiento. He hails from Southern California. He's a very great angler, and he's got a website called SoCalSalty.com. Also writes for BD Outdoors. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
So, Joe, you get to fish around the Channel Islands, and I haven't been there yet, but it's on my bucket list because it sounds like a great experience. Tell our listeners about just the overall experience about fishing around the Channel Islands and what folks are doing there.
Sure. So the Channel Islands are kind of the northern end of the Southern California fishery. So kind of an area that's a little bit hidden away. The people that live up in the Santa Barbara, Ventura, Oxnard area definitely fish there a lot. A lot of Southern California doesn't really know about it as much, but it's a great area to fish.
So let's talk about fishing there in October and November. What species are you targeting?
This year and the last couple of years, because we've been in the El Nino, have really made it just a different scenario than in years past. I mean, in years past, it was all about rock fishing, The Channel Islands are kind of known for that. The rock fishing there is excellent. But this year, it's been all about the yellowtail, really. And the yellowtail bite's the strongest right now that I've seen, in decades, really. I mean, it's been really, really good, and it continues to keep on going.
So tell our listeners a little bit more about yellowtail as a species. How big do they get? What are they like for table fare, and how they fight? Because a lot of our listeners, unless they've been down to Baja or Southern California, are not familiar with that species.
Yeah, a lot of people tend to confuse yellowtail. They think it's a tuna. It's actually part of the jack family, so it's a cousin of the amberjack, which a lot of your Florida audience might be familiar with. But anyway, yellowtail is a really hard-fighting fish. If you've had hamachi in a sushi restaurant, then that's what it is. They're really found in quite a few places around the world. Down in Australia, they call it a kingfish, for example.
Oh.
But here in the United States, or at least here in Southern California, average yellowtail size would be, say, 15 to 25 pounds. But one of the really fun things about the Channel Islands bite is they're seeing fish there that are reaching 40 pounds plus.
Oh, wow.
And yellowtail is one of the hardest fighting fish that we fish for around here. And so, if you have a hard time boating a 20, 25-pound fish, imagine a 40-pound fish.
Oh.
So, yeah, it's a war. And, that's what makes it fun for me because, just because you hook into it doesn't mean anything. I mean, last week I went out, and it was a little bit of a scratchy bite on the day that I got out there. I got 2 bites. I managed to get the first fish, but the second fish, he took me into the rocks, and that was that. So, yeah, it's a fun fish, definitely.
Oh, well, okay. Now, Channel Islands was kind of in the middle of my bucket list. Now it's getting towards the top of the bucket list. That sounds like an absolute hoot. One other thing we need to talk about here. You actually have a trip planned yourself that you're inviting folks to. It's the 4th annual Lingapalooza taking place November 25th. Tell our listeners more about that.
So, there's really kind of 2 separate bites going on in the Channel Islands. I mean, the yellowtail bite that we talked about is really amongst the boats that are fishing closer to the landing. So the main landings are Ventura and Channel Island Sport Fishing out of Oxnard. And the boats that are fishing anywhere from 3/4 to full day, a lot of those boats are, say, 5 to 5. They're the ones that are really getting in on the yellowtail bite. And that bite is happening primarily around Anacapa and Santa Cruz Islands, which are the first 2 islands in the Channel Islands chain.
Okay.
The Lingapalooza, it's on a boat called the Pacific Islander. It's an overnight boat, and we're going to be fishing the outer islands. So either Santa Rosa or hopefully, if the weather cooperates, we'll be fishing out at San Miguel. And totally different story. It's a bottom fish-oriented fishery, and the lingcod is one of my very, very favorite fish to fish for. The table fare is fantastic.
Oh, yes.
But what makes it so much fun is the captain that we're going with on Pacific Island, Captain Steve Virtue, he loves to fish shallow water lingcod. And shallow water makes it fun because we can throw jigs and throw swim baits, and it just kind of adds to the fun factor of the whole trip.
Oh, it sounds like an absolute blast. We are out of time, but folks, if you want to find out more about what Joe's doing in Southern California or about going on the 4th annual Lingapalooza, go to his website. It's SoCalSalty.com. That's SoCalSalty.com, and he does a great job of updating folks about the entire Southern California saltwater fishing experience. Joe, thanks for sharing this with us on America Outdoors Radio.
Appreciate it, John. Have a good one.
Looking for the safest, most stable riding boat on the market? Welcome to Stabicraft. Born in New Zealand, Stabicraft has a built-in reputation for making the most seaworthy boats on the market. Heavy gauge aluminum chambered boats with models ranging from 14 to 29 feet in a variety of configurations to suit all your needs. Check out the all-new 2750 center cab, a walk-around design for the Northwest market and packed with industry-leading features to suit all types of fishing, allowing you to adventure with confidence. Book a test ride today at stabicraft.com.
Jim Houston inviting you on a West Coast wilderness vacation to Duncanby Lodge. From the moment you fly right to the dock, you'll notice the Duncanby difference. It's your vacation. Fish on your own or with a guide, catch the bite when you're ready. No set meal times here. Dine off an extensive menu when you want. And this, in a setting just off the entrance to majestic Rivers Inlet. Come on up this summer and enjoy a few days where time, date, and currency mean absolutely nothing. Check us out at duncanby.com.
Frontier Tactical's Warlock multiple caliber system allows you to retrofit your AR-15 rifle to shoot up to 60 different calibers with the same upper and lower receiver. The Warlock is compatible with most off-the-shelf AR-15 components, which means you get to build your rifle the way you want to. Whether you're into predator hunting, hog hunting, deer hunting, or self-defense, the Warlock multiple caliber system lets you do it all. Find out more about this innovative, made in the USA product at frontiertactical.com.
If you want comfort, convenience, and confidence while carrying in the field or in the water, the Man Gear Alaska chest holder is for you. Our made-in-America nylon holsters are durable and outlast the competition. Our chest holders are favored by anglers, hunters, and hikers alike because your hands are free with this low-profile holster, and it comes in sizes that will fit just about any semi-automatic pistol or revolver that you own. Find out more at mangearalaska.com. That's mangearalaska.com. Hey, stay safe out there.
Did you check out this month's edition of Northwest Sportsman Magazine? If you didn't, you're missing out because it's the best publication out there that covers the fishing and hunting scene, not only in Washington State, but in the entire Northwest. Northwest Sportsman Magazine has got great writers and great content you need to have to be successful. Northwest Sportsman Magazine is the publication for you. Find out more at nwsportsmanmag.com or pick up a copy at a newsstand near you.
Want a trip with some of the most talented anglers on the water? Then book a trip with Northwest Fishing Guides. Salmon, that's right, salmon are their specialty, and you'll get a chance to catch them out of the mighty Columbia River from a comfortable and sturdy 26-foot boat. Northwest Fishing Guides will take you out for steelhead and sturgeon too, and can also accommodate your saltwater fishing desires. So whether you want salmon in the cooler or other fish on the line, book your trip now at nwfishingguides.net. That's nwfishingguides.net. Book your trip with the best.
Looking for the safest, most stable riding boat on the market? Welcome to Stabicraft. Born in New Zealand, Stabicraft has a built-in reputation for making the most seaworthy boats on the market. Heavy gauge aluminum chambered boats with models ranging from 14 to 29 feet in a variety of configurations to suit all your needs. Check out the all-new 2750 center cab, a walk-around design for the Northwest market and packed with industry-leading features to suit all types of fishing, allowing you to adventure with confidence. Book a test ride today at stabicraft.com.
Are you an outfitter, sporting goods retailer, boat dealer, or someone else in the outdoors industry? If you are, you know targeted advertising works best, and what would work better than advertising with America Outdoors Radio? Our hour-long show is heard throughout Seattle, Everett, and the East Side every Saturday morning, and your message will be heard there too. Better still, our rates are way more affordable than you think. Want to find out more? Contact me, John Cruz, through my website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. That's America Outdoors Radio, bringing you more business. Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz, and this portion of the show is brought to you by the Alaska Sporting Journal. It is the monthly publication that covers the hunting and fishing and outdoor scene in the great state of Alaska. Look for it at a newsstand near you. So, it's October, and I can't help but wonder if there's anything left to do in the state of Alaska when it comes to fishing. So I thought I'd reach out to somebody who knows. Her name is Adela Jackson, longtime outdoors writer, photographer, and the executive director for the Northwest Outdoor Writers Association. Adela, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, John. It's good to be back on again.
So Adela, I've got to ask you, is it over? Is there anything left now that it's October in Alaska, or is there still some fishing to be done up there?
Well, there's still some fishing, John. The first nose of the year here, there's termination dust on the mountains, but and the temperature's going to be pretty low during the 40s during the day. But in late September and early October, you can get in some trophy rainbow trout fishing.
Really? So are we talking?
Well, yeah.
Why is the fishing good for the rainbows at this time of year?
Well, most of the salmon have died off after the spawn, but there's the trout like to forage on the decaying flesh of the spawned out salmon carcasses.
Okay.
They're just tear it apart. They love it.
That makes perfect sense. All right. So get out the trout rod, hit some of the rivers, and go trout fishing. That's a great idea. What about steelhead? Is that an option this time of year?
Steelhead, yes. One of the great steelhead areas is down in Kodiak in the Kenai Peninsula. The steelhead, they're a sea-growing rainbow trout.
Sure. And
they run primarily in these two regions. But one of the best areas in that area is the Karluk River on Kodiak Island.
Okay.
And it hosts Alaska's second largest run of steelhead. But the best one is, of course, the Seatuck down in southeast Alaska. That's the best.
Okay. So the Karluk is a good river then on the Kodiak. And how many, are we talking, a few hundred fish are up that river, or are we talking thousands of fish are going upstream there?
Well, a recent 10-year average count was about 8,000 returning adults.
Oh, wow. That's a target-rich environment there. Okay. I like that.
Yes, it is.
So are there lodge operations on the Karluk, or is this kind of a do-it-yourself once you're on the island?
Well, down at the Karluk, there's a lot of do-it-yourself areas, but let's focus down in southeast because that's really the best place, and it's the closest place, the most easily accessible place from folks coming down or up from the Seattle area.
Okay, so are we talking now about the Seatuck River?
We're talking about the Seatuck River down in southeast Alaska.
So what part of southeast Alaska is the Seatuck River found at?
Well, first of all, southeast Alaska, we call it the Panhandle. And it's a strip of islands between Canada's British Columbia and the northern Pacific Ocean. And you can access it. You can access Yakutat. You're going to be flying into Yakutat with Alaska Airlines. And they offer a daily jet service to Yakutat from Seattle. It's real easy. You depart Seattle at 8 a.m. and you arrive in Yakutat at 11 a.m.
Okay, so once I'm there, so I get off the plane, I'm on the tarmac, I'm going to need a place to lay my head. Where do I go from there?
Yeah, well, I like to recommend Yakutat Lodge. They pick you up at the airport, and everything is taken care of from there. You can basically fish right close to where they're located. Their lodge is located closer to the Seatuck River than any of the other lodges in that area.
Okay. We're talking to Adela Jackson, folks, here on America Outdoors Radio about October fishing in Alaska. We're focusing on steelhead fishing on the Seatuck River. All right, so now that I've got a place to lay my head, I've got my fishing rod out, I'm heading down to the river. Let's talk about the steelhead here. Are we talking 6 to 8 pounders, or are we talking fish that are a little bit bigger?
So the Seatuck River out of Yakutat hosts the largest wild stock steelhead population in Alaska.
Okay.
So that means they're larger than they are in the Kodiak area.
Okay. So how big are we talking here on average?
Well, the average is 10 to 12 pounds.
Nice.
Yeah, but sometimes you can get fish in the 16 to 22 pound range.
Oh my gosh.
That's not uncommon, John.
That sounds fantastic. So you mentioned wild steelhead. Down here in the lower 48, most of our wild steelhead fisheries, rightfully so, because there's just not that many of them, they're catch and release if they're allowed at all. What about up there on the Yakutat? Is it catch and release, or are you bonking them on the head?
No, it's a catch and release fishery.
Good. Glad to hear that. Okay, so let's talk tactics. How are people catching these fish and releasing them?
Well, we're talking about fly fishing, right?
Sure. There's a lot of people listening to the show right now that would love to hear about fly fishing for steelhead up there.
Okay, so let me just tell you a little bit. So with fly fishing for these steelhead, is going to be similar to if you were fly fishing for silver salmon. And so you're going to want a 7 to 9 weight rod.
Okay.
Because these fish, I mean, they're active. They're going to get some explosive action with the steelhead, just like you are the silver salmon. Okay, so you want like a floating line, high density sink tip line. You want a high quality fly reel with a smooth adjustable drag.
Okay.
And a capacity for 100 plus yards of 20-pound test backing. Nothing worse than getting spooled with one of those beautiful fish.
No kidding. So one other question, what kind of flies do I want to bring up there to the Yakutat?
Well, number 2, 4 and 6 egg patterned.
Sure.
Yarn, green butt skunks, black girdle bugs, and any other kind of your favorite conventional steelhead flies.
All right. We are starting to run short on time. But before we go, do you by chance have a website for the Yakutat, or that lodge up there at the Yakutat?
I do. It's real simple. It's YakutaTlodge.com. It's YAKUTAT, YakutaTlodge.com.
All right. That's YakutaTlodge.com. Again, it's not over yet, folks. There is still fishing to be had in Alaska in October, and it sounds like the Seatook River is a great place to go. The alternate place to go would be the Karluk River on Kodiak Island. So if you want the lodge experience, consider the Yakutat and the Seatook. If you want the do-it-yourself experience, go to Kodiak Island and fish the Karluk. Adela, thanks for giving me hope in the month of October in Alaska here on America Outdoors Radio.
You're welcome, John.
That's Adela Jackson, folks. And like I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, she's also the executive director for an organization called the Northwest Outdoor Writers Association. It's one of several regional outdoors writers groups around the country where professional communicators, people that get paid to host radio shows or TV shows or write articles for magazines and newspapers and blogs, or take photography that they sell that has to do with wildlife and nature. All these people come together as a group, and they're part of these organizations. There's also a national organization, the Outdoor Writers Association of America. If you have an interest in any of these passions, I would really urge you to join one of these groups and go to a conference. If you do, you will learn so much. You'll meet so many great people, and you'll develop a network that will help you really take your skill, your passion to the next level. Outdoors writers groups, they're a lot of fun, and they're very relevant in this 21st century.
Experience the spirit of Homer, Alaska at the Salty Dog Saloon. Opened in 1956, the Salty Dog is a must-visit historical landmark for locals and tourists alike, offering beer, wine, spirits, and of course, Salty Dog souvenirs. Check out the ceiling of the saloon. You'll find thousands of dollar bills tacked up there on the walls, personalized by all the patrons. The Salty Dog Saloon, the perfect place after a long day of fishing to grab a beer, chat up a local, and enjoy a one-of-a-kind Alaskan experience. Timberline Range Camps are known for their rugged, durable, well-insulated range camp trailers. Don't think of these as an RV. They're an RV on steroids that will last you a lifetime. They are comfortable, too, fitted with all the amenities you would expect, and they even include a wood stove. Timberline Range Camps can be used as a hunting camp or a towable home to take you to your remote getaway. One thing is for sure, all your friends will be envious of your towable range camp trailer. Find out more at sheepcamps.com. That's sheepcamps.com for Timberline Range Camps.
It's time for another local shot of the outdoors. It's the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio, and you'll only hear it here on Fox Sports 1380 KRKO.
We're talking with Matt Gaget again at Rugged Point Lodge because it's not over until it's over, and you have a unique river fishery for coho salmon that's taking off now and is going to go through a good portion of October.
Yeah, it's the fish are showing up as we speak into the rivers, and the coho are big this year. The first one I caught this year was well over 20 pounds, and we have to release all our fish in the rivers here. but we fly fish for them, and it's a lot of fun.
You know, we talked about this a few weeks ago, and it sounds like an absolute hoot where you go to these pristine rivers. You're not going to see anybody else all day because there's no road access. You're getting there basically by boat and then hoofing it in from there. And what kind of flies do you like to use? We didn't get into that last time.
Well, the flies we use, we tie them all ourselves, and they're pretty much mostly made out of tinsel and different colors: silver, green, blue, gold. It just depends. A little bit bigger than you might think for as far as traditional coho flies go, but boy, they work great.
Oh, it sounds like an absolute hoot. And folks, this is a very popular little niche fishery there at Rugged Point Lodge. There's not a lot of openings, so now is the time to book for next year. The website to go to is ruggedpointlodge.com. Again, that's ruggedpointlodge.com for a really unique opportunity to fish for coho salmon in the pristine streams of Vancouver Island. Matt, thanks for telling us all about this on America Outdoors Radio.
Okay, John, thank you, and take care.
There's a whole bunch more of the great outdoors coming your way on Fox Sports 1380.
Some of the best saltwater fishing you'll ever experience is taking place off Vancouver Island this year, and Rugged Point Lodge is where you need to go to catch them. Rugged Point Lodge offers comfortable accommodations, great food, and the chance to catch a limit of salmon, halibut, or lingcod mere minutes away from the dock. Better still, it's not too late to book a trip for this summer to take advantage of what promises to be the best salmon fishing in a generation. Book now at ruggedpointlodge.com. ruggedpointlodge.com, where fishing dreams come true.
Are you an outfitter, sporting goods retailer, boat dealer, or someone else in the outdoors industry? If you are, you know targeted advertising works best, and what would work better than advertising with America Outdoors Radio? Our hour-long show is heard throughout Seattle, Everett, and the East Side every Saturday morning, and your message will be heard there too. Better still, our rates are way more affordable than you think. Want to find out more? Contact me, John Cruz, through my website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. That's America Outdoors Radio, bringing you more business.
Backcountry hunters and anglers, the men and women working hard to keep public lands in public hands. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
Back with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. This portion of the show is brought to you by Northwest Sportsman Magazine. It's the monthly publication that covers the outdoor scene in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and portions of Montana. And speaking of the outdoors, it is hunting season. And one season that's going on right now in several states is the pronghorn season. That's why we've got Mark Kaiser on board. He hails from Sheridan, Wyoming. He wrote a fantastic article for Outdoor Life, and you can check it out at outdoorlife.com about public land pronghorn hunting. Mark, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Appreciate being here today.
So, Mark, let's talk about this a little bit. When it comes to public land pronghorn hunting, you've got 3 states that you really direct people towards at this time of year.
And it's based strictly on pronghorn density, which actually leads to pronghorn opportunity, because the more pronghorn you have, obviously the more that are going to be spread out on these public lands. But the 3 states that I think you should look at, and I'm going to throw a 4th in there, but
okay,
the 3 are Wyoming. It's the pronghorn state. There's more pronghorn here than people, and our numbers are up in most units right now. Next door to Wyoming is Montana. Same story. A lot of pronghorn. Most of them, not all of them, most of them are in the eastern half of the state, but there are scattered pronghorn herds to the west, and don't overlook them because there's some big pronghorns in those small scattered areas. And then the 3rd state, possibly the 4th state here, is Colorado.
Oh.
Colorado ties kind of with South Dakota. They go back and forth. So those are 2 states that you can kind of look at as, one year has more than the other, and then the next year South Dakota may have more. But right now, Colorado probably is up a little bit on South Dakota.
You know, I have never thought of Colorado as a pronghorn state. You think Colorado, you immediately think elk. So this is a little surprising. Where are you finding the pronghorn in Colorado? In the eastern portion of the state?
Eastern, but some of the biggest pronghorn and world records have come from the northwest corner. There's some very good pronghorn country out there. It's a little harder to draw the units out there, and that's one thing that makes Colorado a little bit more challenging to hunt. But there are over-the-counter areas in the eastern part of the state, but the public land is a little bit more limited. You're a little more challenged on finding public land. But one thing to remember as a pronghorn hunter in every state is they're not often, not all the time, revered like elk, whitetails, and mule deer. A lot of landowners, not all of them, but a lot of them will say, yeah, go hunt the pronghorn. I kind of want to get them out of the field. I really don't care about them. So they're not as protective of them. You try to do that on an elk ranch, and a lot of times you get the gate shut behind you, and you're headed to look for public land.
Absolutely. So when it comes to over-the-counter tags, it's an option, obviously, in Colorado, but what about the other states? Is it too late for this season, or we talking about drawing for next year?
We're talking drawing for next year, except South Dakota has what they call, you can call them over-the-counter. You actually have to order them or pick them up at the Maine Game Fish and Parks office in Pierre, South Dakota, or Wyoming, and I haven't checked today, so don't beat me up on my website. there have been some leftovers, and I even picked up my second Wyoming tag at the start of the archery season. A landowner gave me a tip. He said he had some coming into a water tank, and he said, "You're more than welcome to hunt them." And he told me where it was, and I said, "Oh man, that's not my unit." And I just happened to flip through the book and check the leftovers, and there were leftovers there, so I grabbed that one, and that's where I tagged out first during archery season.
Nice. And is that the video you have posted on your website, markkaiser.com?
That is, and I believe I posted it to my YouTube channel, so if you just put in Mark Kaiser, I'm pretty much the only German descent hunter out there with the Kaiser name spelled that way. So.
Right. And by the way, folks, Kaiser is spelled Kayser. So check out markkaiser.com for this antelope hunt that Mark's talking about here. So let's talk.
And real quick,
yes.
Montana is application, and you have to apply. There are, right now, the last 10 years probably, there's been no leftovers there.
Okay, this is good to know. So let's talk about tips for success when it comes to hunting public land pronghorns. They are notoriously spooky and hard to get close to. What suggestions do you have for hunters, especially rifle hunters, who are trying to get close enough to finish the job?
Well, the biggest thing is to become invisible. You're bipedal and you want to walk upright. You got to get on all fours and crawl and peek. That's the big key. You never just want to walk over a hill. And I would suggest to hunters to look at two windows. The first window is opening weekend, and and the mess on opening weekend. There's
sure.
Orange everywhere. But the thing about opening weekend is if you've pre-scouted, you may have a buck coming in and out of a field, in and out of a basin that is going to be there. Get in there well before sunrise, into a pinch point, an ambush spot where he's probably going to be or coming by. Try to get him in the first hour of the season, or 2 or 3 or whatever. Then I would suggest coming back a few weeks later in the season, depending, again, the state you're hunting and how long the season goes. But most rifle seasons go fairly long, except South Dakota. I think they're still limited to under 2 weeks, their season. But late in the season, too, like Wyoming, I've had some of my best antelope hunts the last few days of the season because they bunch up. They've moved into different areas. They're filling up on public lands where they want to winter, where earlier they were spooked off. So opening weekend, and then let it sit a week or so. If you can, a couple weeks, let the crowds get frustrated. You go back after them.
So let's talk about something else here, and that's the whole concept of decoying antelope to get closer to you. I've heard some crazy stories about how this works. Is there anything to it?
Absolutely. The first thing is don't be carrying around a decoy during rifle season.
That's a great piece of advice, Mark.
This is an archery-only tactic, unless there's different decoys. Unless you're going to use a cow decoy, and you're not really decoying there, you're just blending in, trying to act like a cow. But during archery antelope season, which is still going on in most of the states right now, a satellite buck, an immature-looking pronghorn buck, will actually attract a herd buck. And the whole key here is to find a harem. Breeding, the peak breeding season is in September. From the 15th to the 25th is usually when most of the does are in estrus, so we're just kind of waning out of it,
Sure.
But it's a tactic it'll work into October. I've had it work in August. But find your herd, your harem. stay out of sight and don't get too close, but you want to try to get within that 200 to 300 yard range. If you get within 100 yards, which you're really sneaky if you do, but sometimes when you're too close and bring up the decoy, it can spook them because they're like, why didn't we see that coming?
Right.
But if you're 250 yards away and this decoy comes up slowly on the horizon, or you're in a ditch or whatever, they tend to look at it, the bucks will look at it as a challenge, and they'll come out there and try to chase you off. And I've decoyed them. I used to guide hunters, friends of mine. I even guided in Montana for an outfitter, and that was my number one tactic, and it just blew people away. When it happens, it's the craziest thing, and they'll run into 50 yards, 30 yards. I've had them as close to 5 yards, nearly run over the decoy.
Wow. Incredible. These are some great tips. One last question for you. You've shot a lot of pronghorn over the years. What's your favorite way to eat them?
My favorite way to eat pronghorn is, first of all, get the hide off and put them on ice immediately. Take the inside loins out, do a little bit of seasoning on the grill. That's my favorite way. But pronghorn, and especially in August, pronghorn is a meat to never sneer at. It is good eating if you treat it right, and I've got a quarter of my freezer full of pronghorn right now.
Folks, that's Mark Kaiser. He's a full-time outdoors writer. You'll see him on TV as well. Check out his website at markkaiser.com, Kayser, markkaiser.com. Great source of information, especially if you're a hunter out here in the West. Mark, thanks for telling us all about this on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, John.
Timberline Range Camps are known for their rugged, durable, well-insulated range camp trailers. Don't think of these as an RV. They're an RV on steroids that will last you a lifetime. They are comfortable, too, fitted with all the amenities you would expect, and they even include a wood stove. Timberline Range Camps can be used as a hunting camp or a towable home to take you to your remote getaway. One thing is for sure, all your friends will be envious of your towable range camp trailer. Find out more at sheepcamps.com. That's sheepcamps.com for Timberline Range Camps.
Jim Hewson inviting you on a West Coast wilderness vacation to Duncanby Lodge. From the moment you fly right to the dock, you'll notice the Duncanby difference. It's your vacation. Fish on your own or with a guide, catch the bite when you're ready. No set meal times here. Dine off an extensive menu when you want. And this, in a setting just off the entrance to Majestic Rivers Inlet. Come on up this summer and enjoy a few days where time, date, and currency mean absolutely nothing. Check us out at duncanby.com.
Looking for the safest, most stable riding boat on the market? Welcome to Stabicraft. Born in New Zealand, Stabicraft has a built-in reputation for making the most seaworthy boats on the market. Heavy-gauge aluminum chambered boats with models ranging from 14 to 29 feet in a variety of configurations to suit all your needs. Check out the all-new 2750 center cab, a walk-around design for the Northwest market and packed with industry-leading features to suit all types of fishing, allowing you to adventure with confidence. Book a test ride today at stabicraft.com. If you want comfort, convenience, and confidence while carrying in the field or in the water, the Man-Gear Alaska chest holder is for you. Our made-in-America nylon holsters are durable and outlast the competition. Our chest holders are favored by anglers, hunters, and hikers alike because your hands are free with this low-profile holster, and it comes in sizes that will fit just about any semi-automatic pistol or revolver that you own. Find out more at mangearalaska.com. That's mangearalaska.com. Hey, stay safe out there.
Frontier Tactical's Warlock multiple caliber system allows you to retrofit your AR-15 rifle to shoot up to 60 different calibers with the same upper and lower receiver. The Warlock is compatible with most off-the-shelf AR-15 components, which means you get to build your rifle the way you want to. Whether you're into predator hunting, hog hunting, deer hunting, or self-defense, the Warlock multiple caliber system lets you do it all. Find out more about this innovative, made in the USA product at frontiertactical.com.
Log Cabin Sporting Goods is the only fully stocked sporting goods store on Prince of Wales Island in Alaska. Let Log Cabin outfit your next fishing, camping, or hunting expedition. We can supply you with every outdoor amenity imaginable. Melissa, John, and the crew are gearing up for a big end-of-year sales event. We're planning specials and great closeout deals happening now through Christmas. Search for Log Cabin Sporting Goods on Facebook and follow us there to check out the Facebook Friday deals. Log Cabin Sporting Goods.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz, and this portion of the show is brought to you by the American Shooting Journal. It's the monthly magazine that covers not only firearms from both a tactical and hunting side, but also the shooting sports. Look for the American Shooting Journal at a newsstand near you. It is October, and that means it's time to talk deer hunting, and we're going to start off by talking about some tree stand safety tips for hunters. You see, tree stands get hunters out of sight and smell of wary deer, but they can also get hunters into trouble. Because of that, Vermont Fish and Wildlife has got some tips to help you stay safe and get the most out of your tree stand hunting experience. First off, choose a live, straight tree. You don't want a rotted out dead one because bad things are going to happen. Buy smart too. Use only stands that are certified by the Tree Stand Manufacturers Association. Inspect your tree stand each time you use it. You'll always want to wear a full body safety harness, even for climbing. Most falls occur going up and down the tree and getting in and out of the stand. Don't go too high. The higher you go, the smaller the vital zone on a deer becomes, while the likelihood of a serious injury to you increases should you fall. Never carry firearms or bows up and down trees. Always use a haul line to raise and lower your gear. Make sure your firearm is unloaded, and if you're using a crossbow, make sure it's cocked but unloaded, and be sure your broadheads are transported in a hard case. Familiarize yourself with your gear before you go. The morning of opening day is not a good time to be putting on that safety belt for the first time, and be careful with long-term placement. Exposure can damage straps, ropes, and attachment cords. Also, the stand stability can be compromised over time as the tree grows. So there it is, some great advice from Vermont Fish and Wildlife to keep you safe in your tree stand this hunting season. Now that you know how to hunt safely from a tree stand, you've got to decide where you're going to be doing it this fall. If you're a white-tailed deer hunter, you may be interested in an article published in Wide Open Spaces about the best and worst states to go deer hunting. The top 3 states, all known for producing big, mature white-tailed bucks, are Kansas, Iowa, and Kentucky. But there's several states you want to avoid. The staff at Wide Open Spaces lists 10 worst states to go deer hunting and explains why. We're going to cover the worst 5 states here. Now, number 5 is Pennsylvania, and there's no denying that Pennsylvania can rack up some pretty impressive deer harvest numbers. In 2013, hunters there harvested an impressive 127,540 bucks, along with over 208,000 does. While these numbers of mild weather compared to many other states on our list place Pennsylvania in some impressive company, it's the number 1 ranking in hunter density. Get this, 20.3 hunters per square mile. That's a lot of folks with rifles in a small area. And there's also a large yearling buck harvest. 50% of all those bucks were only yearlings. That's why Pennsylvania's number 5. Maine comes in at number 4. In 2013, Maine didn't report their percentage of successful hunters, and the staff at Wide Open Spaces doesn't blame them. Chasing whitetails in the vast woods and deep snow of the northeastern state presents a great challenge, but its lowest antlerless deer per square mile ranking, 0.2 deer per square mile. Low average temperature, 41 degrees, high annual snowfall, 62 inches, and a large yearling buck harvest, 54%, mean that it's maybe too much of a challenge for many, and what you are going to get probably isn't going to be real big. Vermont, the state that had that great information about tree stands, lands at number 3 as the worst state to go deer hunting at. It is one of the most beautiful states in the nation, especially during the fall, and it has a proud history of big buck hunting. However, Vermont's challenging weather, low success rate, and low overall harvest numbers earn it its number 3 ranking. Number 2, New Jersey. It's a state that many don't associate with deer hunting. However, 63% of hunters reported harvesting at least one deer in 2013, which is one of the top 5 nationally for hunter success rates. Despite its proximity to New York, the deer density is also competitive nationwide. 3.6 antlerless deer harvested per square mile in 2013 compared to the national average of 2.1. These numbers, however, don't tell the entire story. New Jersey ranks in the bottom 10 in total deer harvest by state and number 1 in the percentage of yearling buck harvest. 62% of all the bucks killed in New Jersey were yearlings, and that, combined with low overall harvest numbers, earns New Jersey the ranking of the second worst state to go whitetail deer hunting. Where's the very worst state? New York, New York. It's one of the largest states in the Northeast, but it easily slides in at number 1 on this list. The Empire State ranks 3rd in hunter density with 15.1 hunters per square mile. Again, that's awfully crowded in the woods. And while harvest numbers are competitive nationally, 54% of all bucks harvested were yearling deer. In fact, only 18% of all the bucks harvested in New York were 3.5 years old or older. That's the 4th lowest in the nation. This, combined with the highest average snowfall in the nation, means that New York has a large number of hunters enduring miserable conditions in a hostile political climate. In fact, in New York, you get to pay extra for your bow hunting privilege to hunt a deer herd that is imbalanced at best. And that is enough to earn New York the number 1 spot on Wide Open Space's list of 10 worst deer hunting states in the country. Next up on America Outdoors Radio, we're talking to Nate Love with Frontier Tactical about something that's truly revolutionary for AR-15 rifles. It's the Warlock multi-caliber system. I've never seen anything like it before. Nate, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
So, Nate, you're going to have to explain this to our listeners, the Warlock multi-caliber system from Frontier Tactical. Tell our listeners about it.
Sure. So first we'll get into what it does and what it is. It replaces the barrel nut on a standard AR-15. Once that conversion has been made, and it works with every AR-15 platform that's mil-spec or close to it, so billet and forged. We've tried it on lots of them. It works on almost every one that we've tried. And we change out the barrel nut with our system, and once that conversion is made, you can run over 90 calibers through the AR-15 platform.
So essentially, you change that barrel nut to the Warlock multi-caliber system, and then you just take different, I guess it would be the uppers of the AR-15 with the barrels and, basically dial it in to the caliber you want to use?
Well, that's pretty close. So the upper, the lower, and the optic will remain the same. We call that now the receiver group. Okay. So a lot of people are used to pulling 2 pins and taking a complete upper off.
Right.
In this case, you'll use the same complete upper pin to your lower, and that just stays there with your bolt carrier and your optic. So now you don't have to keep buying different optics to put on different upper receivers.
Nice.
All you're changing are barrels, bolts, and magazines.
Okay.
Yeah. So once it's installed on the upper, it stays there. You don't have to change anything or do anything extra other than changing out barrels, bolts, and magazines.
So, Nate, tell me some of the calibers that you accommodate with the Warlock multi-caliber system.
All right. Well, I'll go into some of the basics first because the more common ones people are going to recognize, and you can get pretty crazy with the Wildcats. So you've obviously got 5.56 NATO, 223, either Remington or Wild chambers. But we start at 17 Remington, go all the way up to 50 Beowulf, and that includes 22 long rifle, 6.8 Remington SPC2, 450 Bushmaster, 458 SOCOM, 6.5 Grendel, 7.62 by 39 millimeter. The list is pretty extensive. 204 Ruger, 300 Blackout obviously is a pretty prevalent one. And then you can start getting into some of the ones that are a little bit more Wildcat, like 277 Wolverine, 17 by 223, 20 Practical, 20 Tactical. The list goes on and on.
Wow. And again, all you need is just the barrel to make this happen, and it fits right in.
Correct, with barrels, bolts, and magazines. So what we do is we have an adapter that goes on the barrel side. So once the conversion is made to the receiver side, all you're doing is building up barrels in the caliber that you want. And because our system fits in the same footprint as the barrel nut, you're able to use 2-piece drop-in handguards and rails. Right now, we're also running off our first prototypes of free float adapters.
Wow!
So then you'll have You'll have kind of changed what you call a complete upper because no longer do you have the upper receiver attached to your barrel. It's a complete barrel assembly standalone that plugs into the upper receiver side.
Well, again, folks, this is pretty revolutionary. And one place to find out more and watch a couple YouTube videos that really explain how this works is at the website, frontiertactical.com. Frontiertactical.com is the place to go. Check out the YouTube videos. And once you do, if you own an AR-15 and want to shoot different calibers, I think you're going to be all over the Warlock multi-caliber system. Nate, thanks for telling us all about this on America Outdoors Radio.
All right. Thank you, John.
I hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast. If you get a chance, go to our website. You'll find it at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. And once you get there, you'll find out what's coming up on next week's show, and you can listen to last week's show just in case you missed it. Another place to hear our show is on WRVO Radio. The website for that is RenoViolaOutdoors.com. This is an internet station dedicated to outdoors programming, covers all of North America. It's got some great shows to include our show and our sister show, Northwestern Outdoors Radio. The website again, RenoViolaOutdoors.com. We hope you'll support our sponsors, the publishers of 4 great monthly outdoor magazines, to include California Sportsman Magazine, Northwest Sportsman Magazine, the Alaska Sporting Journal, and the American Shooting Journal. Look for all of them at a newsstand near you. It is October, and I hope the good Lord's going to bless you this month and in the months ahead. There's a lot of hunting and fishing to enjoy this month, and I hope you're going to get out there and do some of it. Remember, it's your country and your outdoors.
It's time for another local shot of the outdoors. It's the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio, and you'll only hear it here on Fox Sports 1380 KRKO.
Next up, C. Dub Welch. He's one of the most well-known Dutch oven cooks in North America, and right now he's making some wonderful peach cobbler in a Dutch oven. How are you doing this so our listeners can do it too?
Basically, John, all I'm doing, I start with about 8 to 10 cups of fresh peaches, and I'm adding some cinnamon, some nutmeg, and some lime juice. About 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, and then I add about 3/4 of a cup of flour as a thickener, and then I'm going to top it with a cobbler crust, dust it, the crust I made this morning, and it's flour, butter, cream cheese. Of course, I try to keep all the calories out of this we can, and I'll dust that with a little bit of cinnamon to give my crust some color, and then we're going to go over to the fire pans when our dinner rolls are done, and we'll get them baked.
For those who are not familiar with Dutch oven cooking, how do you go about actually baking these, and how long does it take to make this cobbler?
Well, interestingly enough, the temperatures we're using in our Dutch ovens are about the same as you would use in your home oven. So cooking times are usually just a little bit longer because our charcoal is not efficient as our home oven. And so what I'm doing, and just envision your bottom element and your top element in your oven, because we're using charcoal, that bottom element's more efficient. So we use about 25% of our heat on the bottom, just well dispersed. You just want nice even heat. And then the rest of it, I go all the way around the outside rim on my Dutch oven. I do not count my briquettes, and then about 3 or 4 in the middle to brown them, and it's pretty dang easy.
Well, it's not only pretty dang easy, it's pretty dang good. In fact, it's absolutely fabulous. C-Dub's one of the best cooks out there. He's written several books on Dutch oven cooking. Do you have a website that we can direct people to, C-Dub?
We do, cdubs.com, CEEDUBS.com.
Before we go, we ought to talk about these Camp Chef Dutch ovens, too. I know you're a big fan of these. Why do you like them so much?
Well, I think for the value, they are the absolute best money out there. And the neat thing about Camp Chef is they're pre-seasoned. One of the biggest hurdle stumbling blocks to people starting Dutch oven cooking, 15 years ago when I started doing this, John, you had to season them, and that was a big stumbling block. Whether it's a skillet or a Dutch oven, take it out of the box, rinse it with hot water, start cooking. They've done all of that for you. You're ready to go right from the get-go.
Love it. That's Camp Chef, folks. They are great at outdoors cooking, and they make it easy for you. Find out about Dutch ovens and more at campchef.com. And again, C-Dub's website is CEEDUBS.com to learn all about Dutch oven cooking and making some great food the next time you go camping. C-Dub, thanks for feeding us.
We're having fun out here, John. Glad you made it.